The college campus in autumn was a canvas of burnt orange and soft gold. For Kim Taehyung, a 20-year-old photography student, the world had always been a collection of frames waiting to be captured. But he found his permanent anchor the day Jeon Jungkook walked into his viewfinder. Jungkook was 19, a music major with a smile that could dissolve the coldest winter frost. They met in the university library, both reaching for the same worn out book on classical composition. When their fingers brushed, an unspoken understanding sparked between them. Sorry, Jungkook had whispered, his large doe like eyes blinking softly. You can take it first. No, Taehyung replied, his deep voice carrying a warmth that made Jungkook's cheeks flush. Let's share it. Sharing became the blueprint of their lives. They shared coffee cups, late night study sessions, dreams of the future, and eventually a small rented apartment near the campus. Their love was not a sudden, destructive storm. It was a slow, deep river that carved its way into their very bones. By the time graduation arrived, there was no doubt about their future. On a rainy June evening, under a fairy lights on their balcony, Taehyung knelt and slipped a simple silver band onto Jungkook's finger. Forever Jungkookie, Taehyung promised, his forehead resting against Jungkook's. Even longer than that day, Jungkook whispered back. They married in a quiet civil ceremony, attended only by their closest friends and Jungkook's younger brother, Kookie. Kookie, who was 15 at the time, looked so much like Jungkook that they could pass for twins, save for a softer, more fragile innocence in Kookie's demeanor. During the ceremony, Kookie sat in the front row, his eyes fixed on Taehyung that went unnoticed by the newlyweds. 2 years into their marriage, their greatest dream materialized. Jungkook became pregnant. The apartment was instantly filled with the scent of baby powder, yellow paint, and the soft hum of lullabies. Taehyung worked double shifts at a local design firm, his exhaustion vanishing the moment he came home to press his ear against Jungkook's growing belly. But as the pregnancy progressed into the second trimester, Taehyung noticed a subtle change. Jungkook, usually vibrant and energetic, began to tire easily. His breaths grew shallow during short walks, and his lips occasionally bore a faint, bluish tint. It's just the baby taking up space there. Jungkook would laugh, brushing off Taehyung's frantic worries. He's going to be a strong boy, taking all his papa's energy. Taehyung wanted to believe him, but a nagging fear clawed at his chest. During a routine prenatal checkup in the seventh month, Jungkook collapsed in the hospital corridor. The world shattered for Taehyung in a matter of hours. Inside the sterile consultation room, the cardiologist delivered the devastating truth. Jungkook had a rare, undiagnosed congenital heart defect. The strain of the pregnancy was causing his heart muscle to fail at an accelerated rate. The pressure on his cardiovascular system is extreme. The doctor explained gravely. To save himself, we need to discuss terminating the pregnancy and starting immediate aggressive treatment. Taehyung felt the air leave his lungs. He grabbed Jungkook's hand, his voice trembling. We do it. We terminate. I can't lose you, Jungkook. I don't care about anything else. I need you. Jungkook, pale and fragile on the hospital bed, looked at Taehyung with a ferocity that defied his weak body. He placed his other hand firmly over his stomach. No. Jungkook, please. No, Taehyung. Tears spilled down Jungkook's hollow cheeks. This is our baby, a part of us. If I give him up, my heart will stop anyway out of grief. Let me bring him into this world. Please, let me give you this gift. I don't want a gift if it costs me your life. Taehyung sobbed, burying his face in Jungkook's lap. But Jungkook was unyielding. He chose love over survival, risking every remaining beat of his heart to shelter the life growing inside him. The final 2 months were a blur of oxygen tanks, whispered prayers, and sleepless nights where Taehyung watched Jungkook sleep, terrified that each rise and fall of his chest would be the last. Rain tapped softly against the hospital window. The room smelled of medicine and fading hope. Taehyung sat beside the bed, holding Jungkook's hand so tightly his knuckles had turned white. 3-month-old baby Kook slept peacefully in a small crib nearby. He didn't know. He didn't know that his mother was dying. He didn't know that this was the last night he would ever hear Jungkook's voice. Jungkook's breathing was weak. His heart defect had worsened after childbirth. Doctors had warned him. Giving birth could kill him. Now the price had come. Tears rolled endlessly down Taehyung's face. No. His voice cracked. No, Jungkook, don't leave me. Jungkook smiled weakly. Even dying, he looked beautiful. Taehyung, please don't. I need you to listen. Taehyung shook his head. I don't want to. You have to. His fingers trembled as he reached for another hand standing beside the bed. A young boy, 18 years old, innocent eyes, the same face, the same smile, the same voice. Jungkook's younger brother, Kookie. Kookie had been crying silently for hours. Jungkook placed Kookie's hand into Taehyung's. Then he placed both hands over theirs. A promise, a destiny, a burden. After I'm gone, Taehyung immediately shook his head. No, you promised to listen. Jungkook continued. Kookie has no one except me. Kook needs a mother. Kookie loves this baby. No. Taehyung's voice broke. No, don't ask this. But Jungkook continued anyway. Marry him. The room fell silent. Even the rain seemed to stop. Taehyung stared at him, horrified, heartbroken, destroyed. What? Marry Kookie. Jungkook smiled softly. He'll take care of Kook. He'll take care of you. Taehyung stood up, almost stumbling. How can you ask me that? Because I know you. Jungkook's eyes filled with tears. And because I know him. Kookie lowered his head. His shoulders shook. He never imagined hearing those words. Never. Because for years he had secretly loved Taehyung. Silently, painfully, from afar. Jungkook squeezed Taehyung's hand. Promise me. I can't. Promise me. Jungkook. Promise. Minutes later, with his forehead pressed against Jungkook's hand, Taehyung finally whispered the words that would change all three of their lives forever. I promise. Jungkook smiled, relieved, peaceful, happy, for the first time in weeks. And before sunrise, he closed his eyes forever. The funeral, the world ended on a Tuesday. That was how Taehyung described it. Not when Jungkook died, but when the funeral ended, because death still felt unreal. The funeral made it permanent. Everyone went home. Flowers wilted. Condolences stopped. The house became quiet. Too quiet. And every corner carried Jungkook's memory. The kitchen, the sofa, the nursery, their bedroom. Taehyung stopped sleeping, stopped eating, stopped living. The only thing keeping him alive was baby Kook, and a promise he wished he had never made. The wedding nobody wanted. 3 months later, a simple ceremony. No music, no smiles, no happiness. Kookie wore white. Taehyung wore black. It felt less like a wedding, more like another funeral. After signing the marriage papers, Taehyung finally looked at Kookie. His expression was cold, tired, broken. I need you to understand something. Kookie nodded. I'll never love anyone the way I love Jungkook. The words pierced his heart, yet he still smiled. I know. You'll never replace him. I don't want to. Taehyung frowned. Kookie looked down. I only want a small corner in this house. His eyes drifted toward baby Kook. And permission to love my nephew. Upon entering the apartment, the scent of Jungkook still lingered in the air, his favorite cologne, his half finished sheet music on the piano. The reality of the situation crashed over them like an icy wave. Taeyang looked at him, his chest tightening at the sight of Jungkook's face on this innocent boy, and nodded tightly. Your room is at the end of the hall. I will sleep in the study. Days became weeks. Weeks became months. Kookie attended college, cooked meals, cleaned the house, studied at night, fed the baby, changed diapers, stayed awake through fevers, handled everything, silently, without complaints, without expectations, and every night he cried alone because the man he loved never looked at him. To Taehyung, he was only a promise, nothing more. Taehyung buried himself in his work, often returning past midnight. When he came home, the apartment would be spotless, a warm plate of food covered on the dining table, and Cookie asleep on the small armchair in the baby's room, a textbook open on his lap. Taehyung would stand at the doorway of the nursery, looking at the scene. He felt a complex knot of guilt and resentment. Cookie was doing everything perfectly, selflessly, without a single complaint. Yet, every time Taeyang looked at him, he saw the ghost of the life he was supposed to have. He kept his distance, speaking only in short, polite sentences about household expenses or the baby's health. One rainy evening, baby Kook developed a high fever. Cookie, exhausted from a grueling midterm exam, stayed up the entire night, rocking the crying infant, applying cold compresses to his forehead, and weeping silently out of fear that he wasn't doing enough. When Taeyang walked into the nursery at 3 a.m., awakened by the crying, he saw Cookie singing a soft, trembling lullaby, the exact same lullaby Jungkook used to sing. Stop it, Taeyang said, his voice laced with sudden raw pain. Cookie froze, looking up with bloodshot, terrified eyes. Taehyung, see, don't sing that song. Don't try to sound like him, Taeyang said, his fists clenched at his sides. Just give him the medicine and be quiet. Cookie's lower lip trembled, but he bowed his head. I'm sorry, I won't do it again. Taehyung turned and walked away, hating himself for the cruelty, but too consumed by his own agonizing grief to fix it. As the weeks turned into months, Cookie's physical appearance began to change under the weight of sheer exhaustion and emotional isolation. He grew thinner, his collarbones sharp against his oversized shirts, and his eyes carried a permanent fatigue. Yet, his devotion to baby Cook only intensified. The baby became his entire world, the physical manifestation of the brother he missed and the man he loved but could never touch. Taehyung continued his policy of emotional absenteeism. He noticed Cookie's declining weight, but convinced himself that college stress was the cause. To minimize interaction, Taehyung installed a high definition CCTV security camera system in the apartment, focusing primarily on the living room and the nursery. It's so I can check on the baby while I'm at the office, Taehyung had explained coldly while setting up the monitor on his work desk. That's a good idea, Taehyung see. It's safer that way, Cookie had replied, holding a basket of laundry, his voice devoid of any expectation. They were two strangers sharing a roof, bound by a ghost and a child. Cookie never asked for money beyond the basic groceries, never asked Taeyong where he went on weekends, and never complained when Taeyong completely forgot his 19th birthday. He simply lived in his designated corner, a silent angel keeping the ruins of Taeyong's life from collapsing entirely. By the fifth month, baby Kook began rejecting the commercial infant formula. He suffered from severe colic, vomiting frequently, crying for hours until his tiny face turned purple. The pediatricians tried different brands, but nothing worked. The baby was losing weight, and the stress in the household reached a breaking point. Cookie spent hours in the university library, not researching his classes, but desperately reading medical journals and holistic health papers. He discovered articles detailing a rare biological phenomenon. induced lactation through intensive physical simulation, hormonal therapies, and extreme psychological desire to nurture. He consulted a private clinic specializing in lactation, using the small amount of allowance money he had saved. The treatments were painful, involving rigorous physical regimens, breast pumps used around the clock to stimulate the mammary glands, and herbal supplements that caused intense hormonal fluctuations, nausea, and deep physical aches. Kookie kept this entirely secret from Taehyung. He underwent the grueling process in the dead of night, enduring the burning pain in his chest, driven by a singular, fierce determination. I will save Jungkook Hyung's baby. I will give him what he needs. After 3 weeks of agonizing effort, his body responded. Nature yielded to his sheer depth of love and desperation. It was a Tuesday afternoon, around 2 p.m. Taehyung was sitting in his glass walled corporate office, reviewing a design layout. His mind was restless, filled with a strange, lingering anxiety about the baby's health. On an impulse, he clicked open the CCTV application on his secondary desktop monitor. The camera view of the nursery loaded in high definition clarity. Baby Kook was crying hysterically in his crib, his tiny fists flailing. The door opened, and Kookie walked in. He looked exceptionally pale, his forehead beaded with sweat, wearing a loose button up cotton shirt. The young watched, expecting Cookie to pick up the formula bottle from the warmer. Instead, Cookie unbuttoned his shirt, exposing his chest. He lifted the crying baby gently into his arms, settling into the rocking chair. The young's hand froze on his computer mouse. His breath hitched. On the screen, Cookie carefully guided the crying baby to his bare chest. The infant immediately latched on, his frantic cries ceasing instantly, replaced by the soft rhythmic sounds of suckling. A drop of pure white milk escaped the corner of the baby's mouth, glistening in the sunlight streaming through the window. Cookie closed his eyes, a tear of pure relief and physical exhaustion slipping down his pale cheek. He laid his forehead gently against the baby's head, rocking him with a tenderness that was almost holy. Taehyung stood up so fast his office chair crashed backward against the glass wall. His heart beat violently against his ribs. He stared at the screen, his mind struggling to process the biological impossibility, the sheer magnitude of what he was witnessing. This boy, this 18-year-old whom he had treated with nothing but cold indifference, had literally altered his own biology, enduring unknown amounts of physical pain and hormonal torment just to nurse his late brother's child. My God, Taeyong whispered, his voice trembling as tears blurred his vision. What have I done? Taeyong didn't remember the drive home. He ran through traffic, abandoned his car in the building's driveway, and burst through the apartment door, his chest heaving. The apartment was quiet. He walked down the corridor with slow, hesitant steps, his heart throat high. He pushed open the door of Cook's room. Cookie was still sitting in the rocking chair, his shirt now buttoned back up, buttoning it hastily as he saw Taehyung's frantic appearance. The baby was fast asleep in the crib, his stomach full, a peaceful expression on his face for the first time in weeks. Taehyung, see? Cookie whispered, panic flitting across his tired features. Why are you home so early? Is something wrong? Taehyung didn't speak. He walked over and fell to his knees right in front of the rocking chair, his hands gripping Cookie's knees. He looked up at the boy, his eyes streaming with tears. Taehyung, see, what's wrong? You're scaring me, Cookie said, trying to pull back, but Taehyung held fast. I saw the camera, Taehyung choked out, his voice cracking with immense emotion. I saw you, nursing him. Cookie's face went completely white. A look of deep shame and terror crossed his features. He covered his face with his hands, his shoulders shaking. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Taehyung-si. I know it's weird. I know it's strange. The formula wasn't working, and he was losing weight, and I didn't know what else to do. Please don't hate me. Please don't throw me out. I did it for the baby. I swear I did it for Cook. Taehyung's heart broke into 1,000 pieces at Cookie's apology. The boy thought he was going to be punished for an act of pure sacrificial love. Taehyung reached up, gently but firmly pulling Cookie's hands away from his face. He held Cookie's slender, trembling hands in his own, pressing them against his wet cheeks. I don't hate you, Taehyung cried softly, his voice thick with reverence. I am disgusted with myself, Cookie. Not you. You. You are an angel. How could you do this? The pain you must have gone through. Why didn't you tell me? I didn't want to burden you, Cookie whispered, his large eyes welling with fresh tears. You already carry so much grief for Jungkook Young. I wanted to be useful. I wanted to protect the only thing left of him and of you. Taehyung stared into Cookie's eyes, really looking at him for the first time in months. Behind the striking resemblance to Jungkook, there was a completely distinct, beautiful, resilient soul. A soul that had been quietly loving him from the dark, asking for nothing while giving absolutely everything. Taehyung leaned forward, pressing his forehead against Cookie's knee, letting his tears soak into the fabric. Forgive me, Cookie. Please, forgive me. The atmosphere in the house changed drastically after that day. Taehyung tore down his cold exterior, replacing it with an intense, protective attentiveness. He forced Cookie to sit down while he cooked. He took over the heavy house cleaning, and he bought nutrient rich foods and supplements to support Cookie's health. But with this new closeness came a profound emotional torment for Taehyung. As he spent more time with Cookie, watching him laugh with the baby, seeing the gentle curve of his smile, Taeyong found his heart beating faster for reasons that had nothing to do with memory. He found himself wanting to reach out and tuck a stray strand of hair behind Cookie's ear. He found himself looking at Cookie's lips, wondering how they would taste. And with those feelings came an overwhelming wave of guilt.